Go ahead and get started this evening. Excited to be with you tonight. We're going to talk about safe banking for seniors, and we're going to look at different types of scams that are coming across our radar. My name is Jessica Kerr. I work at Golden Belt Bank here in Hayes. I've been in banking for almost 25 years now. I call myself an accidental banker because when I moved up here to go to school, I had previously been in retail, and when I came up here, I wanted to have a little more fun, so I looked specifically for something that wasn't nights and weekends, and that put me in the banking industry, and just loved it and stayed ever since. So right now I'm the Chief Compliance and Marketing Officer, so I get to do a lot of reading and making sure that we're following the rules that are required for banking. And then I also get to do some of the fun stuff with marketing and social media and some of the promotions that we do. So that's a little bit about me, but I am excited to be presenting this material. The best way to fight and stop scams, we think, is education. So that's why Golden Belt Bank is making it a priority to go around and do these presentations anywhere that will have us. So I'm excited to be here with you tonight. So just briefly what we'll discuss tonight, we are going to talk about what a scam is. We're going to talk about why they work. I'm going to go through several different types of scams and give you examples and hopefully a story to kind of make you understand how that scam works. We'll talk about the warning signs of scams, and I'm going to have you look and listen for those during my presentation, because if you can spot those, you're going to be able to easily spot these scams before you have any type of harm come to you. And then we're going to talk about a few of the things that we can do to build our scam defenses. So first of all, what is a scam? A scam is quite simply a trick. Somebody, a fraudster, a con artist is playing a trick on you with the goal to get your money. And once they do get your money, they're gone, and so is your money. So not much you can do about it. But we are going to talk about how scams can fail, and we're going to talk about how you can make that happen. So who is that person behind that scam? What do they look like, and what are they good at? Well, the thing you got to remember about a scammer is that is their job, right? They have no regular 8 to 5. This is what they do every day. They talk to people and they try to scam them out of their money. They have the benefit of doing that over and over again, so they get better and better and better at what they're doing and figuring out the right story to tell to connect with a person so that they can get your money. They are a master of persuasion. The ultimate salesperson. They're going to sell you whatever you're in need of at the time. They have a knack for figuring out vulnerabilities. This presentation is towards seniors because that's a group of people that have similar vulnerabilities, and they know what those are, and so they kind of they're able to exploit those vulnerabilities. In any type of scam, they are able to quickly gain your trust. So they figure that out by, again, building those common bonds. They find some commonality and they gain your trust using that. And then they show no mercy. So they're very hard to tell no to, very hard to turn down, very hard to get rid of in some cases. They're very highly skilled at their trade, and one of the things they're very good at is appealing to your emotions. So they're looking because you're fearful of maybe losing money or running out of money. They look at your sympathy, loneliness, desire for companionship, desire to be helpful is another one that's really used a lot. They won't take no for an answer, and then they do insist on it staying a secret. So that's other things that they're doing to make this scam work. So how do we solve the scam problem? What we're doing right now. We're educating you, you're getting educated, and we hope you go around and spread everything you learned tonight with 10 other people. Because the more that we get out there how these scams work and stop them, the less profitable it is for the scammers, and hopefully eventually they'll go find something else to do. So I'm going to get into the variety of scams, and we're going to start here with the giveaway scam. This is probably the oldest, I would say one of the oldest tricks in the book as far as the scam is concerned. What this is going to sound like is you either get a phone call or an email, and it says, "Hi, you've won a wonderful trip for two to Mexico. But we need you to respond immediately so that we can reserve your space for the trip. And by the way, can you send us $2,000 because we have to, that's the only way we can RSVP your travel vouchers and send them to you." So a couple of things are happening in this type of scam. First of all, they're asking you to respond immediately. So anytime you have to respond quickly, that's a red flag that you should look for. And then the second thing is they're asking you for money up front. Okay, so they want you to pay them something without you getting anything in return. So that's another red flag that you should look for in the giveaway scams. The next type of scam is a sweetheart scam, or also called a romance scam. And these are typically love interests. So you've found somebody through maybe a dating website, maybe through Facebook, and you started, a relationship with this person. It can even be, it might not be a romantic interest, okay? It could be someone that you've just come to have a common bond with. Maybe you guys both like a certain type of books, okay? And then you build maybe this friendship. So it's not always or limited to romance. But once you build this relationship, they profess that relationship. They profess that love quickly and build that relationship quickly, okay? But once that's established and you they feel like you trust them, then the requests for money are going to start. And so the way these typically work is the scammer says they're not in the US, but they want to come meet you, right? I want to meet you in real life, but I don't have the money for a plane ticket, for example. Can you send me $1,000 for the plane ticket, okay? And maybe you do that. You send them the $1,000 for the plane ticket. The next thing you know, they're saying, "Well, I was on my way to see you. I was on my way to the airport, and I got in a car accident. Now I've been in the hospital. I have all these medical bills. I don't know how I'm going to pay them. Can you send me more money?" So we do it again because we care for that person and we want them to be better. We want them to feel better. Well, then the next thing you know, it's something else. Now with all my medical issues, I've lost my job. I'm going to lose my apartment. Can you send me more money? And the story and reasons for the request for money will keep changing. As long as you're sending them more money, they will find a different reason and a different type of story to get you to do that. Romance scams are one of the most prevalent types of scams that we see. And a lot of times it's coming through social media. So Facebook is a big place where people meet each other. When you do meet somebody on Facebook or through a dating site, if they ask you to move your conversation, so Facebook has, you can message back and forth, right? And all the dating sites would have the same thing. You could message back and forth. If they ask you to move your conversation over to another app, and one that's prevalently used is called Telegram, that is a red flag, because what they're trying to do is avoid the monitoring that some of these dating sites and Facebook have in place. And when you move it off of the platform, they're just trying to get around that. So anything that tells you to move it to a different platform from where you're already going, red flag. For this one, I like to read, I have a example. So the Better Business Bureau tracks scams, and they have a lot of data on which ones were used the most in the past. And so I like to read for the romance scam an actual example. This is a gentleman that sent in what happened to him so that you can kind of understand what these look like. And this was reported last year, 2023. By a person in North Dakota. So I met a woman when she texted me by accident. I started talking with her and thought she wanted to have a relationship with me. She and I talked on Telegram. She introduced me to her aunt, who is supposedly the head lady of the stock market. After talking with her for weeks, she said she was going to come and be with me in a relationship, and I started believing her. She then asked me to invest with Tiger Trades, so I did. Then she changed her mind about coming to be with me, and I went online and tried to withdraw my money, but I can't get it. I went online to find out about Tiger Trades and talked to someone who said that it was a fake app and had no ties with the real Tiger Trades. So I'm out $587. So there's an example of a gentleman that went through this and kind of what it looked like to him. So again, keep in mind where you're meeting the person, check out their profile, make sure that the things there, see if you can check any parts of their story independently before you, and definitely think twice before you send any money. The next type of scam is a family imposter scam. So this is where the scammer impersonates a member of your family. These are also pretty common. One way we're telling people to try and combat this is by developing a code word with your family members. So if you have, grandkids, or it could be any family member, honestly, that the scammer can pretend to be, and you come up with a code word. How this works is, say it's a grandson, and they call the grandpa. Hi, Grandpa. I have got in a bunch of trouble. I'm really sorry, but I need your help. I've been arrested. I need you to send me $500. Please don't tell my mom and dad. I don't want anybody to know, but I really need this money. Can you help me out? And the grandpa would respond, sure, I want to help you, but what's the family code word? And so whatever that word is, if they know it, then we're all on the same page. We know that that's who is actually on the other end of the phone line. If you don't have a code word established, there's still ways to identify that it's a family imposter scam. The biggest one is verifying that story independently. So call the grandson. Call the number that you have for the grandson. Call the mom and dad. Okay, I don't know any mom and dad that wouldn't want to know. It doesn't really matter. So call them. If you know a friend or family member or sibling of that person that's trying to call you, call them. The biggest thing is definitely try to verify that story independently. The warning signs of this type of scam is going to be secrecy. So he didn't want mom and dad told. He didn't want anybody told. So trying to keep it a secret. Money is required to resolve the problem. And then usually there's always that sense of urgency also. So watch for that. A lot of these scams can be stopped by just taking more time, by not reacting and waiting things out. The scammer gets tired and they'll move on to their next victim. The next one is the government imposter scams. And these are probably what I would consider the most difficult to spot, simply because you have legitimate business with the government entities that they're impersonating, okay? So Social Security, think IRS, think Medicare benefits, Medicaid. All those things are entities that are that can be impersonated by a scammer. But look for the warning signs, okay? First of all, they're preying on your emotion of fear, because a lot of times you're going to lose your benefits. Things are going to get cut off. That's what they're going to say. So watch for that. Then that's again the sense of immediacy. So these things are going to happen in 24 hours. Government entities don't typically work that fast. That's what I try to remember. So they're not going to do anything in 24 hours. And somebody in one of these presentations pointed out to me, and it was really good, they're typically going to send you letters, okay? You're not going to get just one phone call or just one email. You're going to get some paper correspondence if something's going on. So definitely be very cautious on the phone calls from people wanting these entities. Yes, go ahead.
We got a call like that. This is Cop America. Yeah, everybody calls themselves a cop,
yes.
right?
Yes,
The
yes.
cops are gonna come and get me in 24 hours and take me to jail, and,
Yeah.
we don't call our policemen cops,
No.
Yeah,
And
themselves.
definitely, so very good, knowing that the language is different than what you typically see.
And I was under a felony arrest.
Oh, wow.
Or sometimes they call you and say they have a search warrant for you.
Another great example, yes. And so this is where I like to warn people about not trusting your caller ID, because caller ID can be spoofed very, very easily. So just because it says it's Hays Police Department does not mean it's Hays Police Department. And again, this is where we can verify that story independently by just call the police department and ask whatever they're telling you, turn around, call the police department at their regular number and ask them if what's going on. So we had an example of this kind of scam recently in our community, and you may have remembered seeing it. People were being called and told, and they were people in the medical field. And they were getting these phone calls and being told that they had a HIPAA violation. So the HIPAA is the Medical Privacy Act. So they were, I don't know exactly, but nurse, doctor, whatever, and they were being told, okay, you're in violation of HIPAA. You're going to lose your job if you don't pay this fine. You're going to be arrested and lose your job if you don't pay this fine. And then they would give them directions on how to pay the fine. And there were people believing this, and honestly, they were preying on fear, right? I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to be arrested, so they're really working those emotions. And we had people coming in to our bank, withdrawing cash to go pay this fine because they were so scared. And part of that was the spoofing of the caller ID, so they thought that it really was the police department, and it was not. We had to call, we tried to stop people and to talk them down, and we even called the police department to come talk to people because the whole thing was a scam. So got to be really careful, but again, sense of urgency, so you got to do something quickly. And then the other thing is, how are they asking you to pay? Okay, so if they're asking you to pay in what we call hard to track payment methods, that's a red flag. So wire transfers are an example. You have to go into your bank typically to do a wire transfer. When you do a wire transfer, that money, the bank sends that money and it's gone. We can ask for it back, and the other bank may send it back. They even may want to cooperate and send it back. The problem is these scammers, what they do is they'll move it to one bank. As soon as it's in that place, they move it out again. So even if that bank wanted to send it back and help everybody out, they can't because the money's gone. So wire transfers are you got to be very careful with wire transfers. Gift cards, they'll ask you to pay in gift cards. So you'll go to Dollar General, Dillon's, wherever, and get your gift card. And what they'll have you send them is a picture of those numbers on the back. Well, once they have the numbers, it's as good as having the card. They just go spend that money just like they had the card in person. So gift cards are another one. And then cryptocurrency. And you may think, well, I don't know anything about cryptocurrency. I could never send, anything to cryptocurrency. The problem is you don't know, but the scammer does. So the scammer knows exactly the steps to take you through to get that money into cryptocurrency. So if you hear the word cryptocurrency, that's a big stop right there. And then the last one that's come up a little bit more lately, and I hope this is because we're getting this word out about these other methods, but now we're back to using cash. So people will say, they'll ask you to go withdraw cash and then ship it to the scammer, okay? So again, we had this example not that long ago. It was in Great Bend, so nearby. A woman went into a bank, withdrew cash. She gave the reason to withdraw the cash that she was going to go buy a car. So the bank, didn't stop her, let her withdraw the cash. She put it in I think it was FedEx, put it in a FedEx box and shipped it. Well, FedEx stopped the package because they thought, I think they shook it or something. It made a funny noise. They were suspicious about it, so they went ahead and x-rayed the package and realized it was cash. So at that point, they did stop it and were able to return those funds to this woman. But in most cases, cash being shipped through the mail, you're never going to get that back. So I think maybe that's just another thing you should watch for, is if they're asking in cash. And then tech support scams. So tech support scams, this is where somebody that you do business with, maybe like your IT stuff with your computer, is going to be the impersonator. So Microsoft is an example, or the big one that we see a lot is like antivirus companies. So the scammer is impersonating Norton is a common antivirus company, or a McAfee, and I'm sure there's others out there, but those are the two most common. So the scammer sends a phishing email. Okay, so phishing emails are fake emails they're basically phishing, right, for you to click on a link or do something in the email. So they're not legitimate emails. but they look very much like legitimate emails. So the way the antivirus scheme works is the email will say, thank you for subscribing to our antivirus service. We have charged your account $500. Well, obviously, immediately, if that was me anyway, I would panic a little bit that I've just been charged $500 for antivirus. So in the email, it goes on to say, if you have any troubles or need assistance or want a refund, you're going to click a link or call a phone number. Well, as soon as you click that link in the email, and this is what this gentleman was telling you earlier, the scammer gains access to your computer. It's called remote access. They are able to, with that link, they're putting stuff on your computer, and then they're able to access your computer. From that point on, whether you're on the phone with them or they're walking you through the steps, but they'll ask you to log into your online banking. Somehow they're making it look like there's been a deposit made. So you say, well, I want my $500 back. Well, they'll have you log into your online banking, and then they make it look like they've refunded you too much money. So for example, they've refunded you $5,000 instead of $500. Then they'll prey on you and say, using fear, you need to return that money to me immediately. You need to go to the bank and wire transfer that money back to us. And so we've had people come in, and that's exactly what's happened to them. Except the money that looks like that's in their account is not actually in their account. In some cases, what's actually happened is the fraudster was able to transfer, it's all their money, but they've transferred it from like their savings to their checking. So it looks like there's a deposit, and there is a legitimate deposit into their checking account. It just didn't come from Norton or anybody else. It came from their own money. And so then they've come into the bank and sent that wire transfer out. So be very careful. On this one, if you're not real tech savvy, I like to recommend that you do find a local. There's lots of local technology providers that you go to and find them, and let them set up the antivirus. Let them do a scan on your computer. Let them manage that for you so that you're not having to worry about that.
It was Microsoft Norton and what was it?
McAfee, MCAFEE, is the other common antivirus company. Okay, and then charity scams are another common one that we see. These, and I would say they're a little less common than the other ones, but these are basically a charity pops up and they've created a fake charity. I mean, it's easy to create fake websites. The real one that worries me on this one is if you guys have heard of the GoFundMe. And GoFundMe has a lot of great purposes. You can make, that's a great way to earn money for a legitimate cause. The problem I have is it's also easy to create fake ones. So just be cautious. Maybe, I like with GoFundMe, I like to say you should know the person or the friend of a friend at least, when you're giving money to a GoFundMe. So you know that the situation they're in, that they're needing to get money for is something real. If it's further out than that, cross country or something, stay away from those. Donate to your local, organizations where the money's being used for a good cause.
I just recently got one from the American Red Cross that I hung up on.
Yeah.
It didn't sound legitimate.
Yeah. And if you want to give to the Red Cross, you can easily find, their legitimate website and go there and give them money or
call them direct,
or
like you said.
Exactly, or call them direct. So there are ways, but you seek them out rather than them finding you. And then investment scams. So believe it or not, this was ranked the #1 type of scam in 2023 by that Better Business Bureau data collection. What's happening in these investment scams, and it's more of a long play. Okay, a lot of the scams we've seen earlier, they do their requests for money, they get your money, and then they're gone. They're gonna take a little bit longer and establish a longer relationship with you. And how these work is, first of all, they approach you, and it could be an accidental text message, an accidental phone call, even in person they bump into you, okay? And eventually, maybe they find a common bond with you, you both like to cook, and all of a sudden you're in conversations, and then they say, hey, you might be interested in this investment opportunity that I'm in. and they promise lots of returns. And again, that's a red flag. If they're promising really big returns on an investment, you should definitely be keeping your eyes and ears peeled for the legitimacy of that. So they'll ask you to put some money in, and maybe you do. Maybe you put a small amount because you're like, well, it doesn't matter if it works out, that's great. So you put a small amount of money in. Well, then you might get some statements. You know, they might text message you a statement, and you're thinking, oh, this is looking pretty good. The returns are pretty nice. So you give a little bit more money, and this may go on for a while. And then you might even say, well, I need a little bit of that money back. And they actually give it back to you, okay? So everything's working the way the person said they would work. And then maybe you give a little bit more because you thought, I'll give a little larger chunk of money. This is panning out so well for me. Well, eventually you run out of money to give, or you're unwilling to give any more. And then that's when they take off and you'll never hear from them again. This is an investment scam, and it's called pig butchering. So basically they're fattening the pig, and then once there's no more money to give, they're gone. This is a scam that actually, it took down a bank in Kansas because a banker involved with that bank was using the bank's money in a pig butchering scheme. So it's a scam that anybody can fall for, so just be very, very careful with it. Remember that above average returns are, that guaranteed, that's not something a typical investment's gonna have. Immediate purchase, again, we're wanting that to happen right away. And investments are never risk-free. Unless it's a certificate of deposit at a bank, it is not risk-free. So just remember that. Any questions on the investment scams?
A Ponzi would be about the same thing then.
It would be typical like that, and I think what some of these investment scams are they get some people convinced to give, and it's all working for them. So then those people convince people underneath unknowingly that the whole thing is a Ponzi scam, investment scam. Okay, so spotting scams. Have we got this all figured out now? Immediate action required. So that's why I'm saying if you just stop and take a break, don't take any action, you can prevent a lot of these right off the gate. If they're telling you to keep it a secret, big, huge red flag. So it's your money. You're entitled to do with it whatever you want. And if you want to take out an ad in the newspaper and say, I'm doing this with my money, that is your right, which means you can go tell anybody you want. If you want to tell your kids what you're doing, your grandkids, your friends, so anybody that's telling you you need to keep it a secret, that's a red flag. The other thing I like to touch on in this case, because we're having to do it more and more often. So banks, we are trying to protect your money, and we are seeing these frauds, scams happen to people every day. And so we have put controls in place that when someone comes in and withdraws a large amount of cash, and that's not normal from them, we are going to start asking questions. And you might think, well, that's none of your business, right? The thing is, we are trying to protect you. We have the benefit of seeing all of the scams and experiencing all of those, so we have a little more knowledge to play on, and so that's why we're asking the questions. So please try to indulge us, understand that it is coming from a place of caring and protection, even though it might be like, well, that's none of your business. And I get that, because I don't like asking it either, but we don't want you to come back 2 days later and now you know it's a scam and the money's gone and we can't do anything at that point.
What about the contractor you have down there?
I'm sorry?
You jumped over contract scams.
Oh, yep, I probably skipped that one. Contractor scams, yeah, let me go through that real quick. So contractor scams, a lot of times, and I would say they're going to happen more, around here I would see this happening more like after we have a big storm, so like hail damage or something. But either way, you have somebody typically going door to door and they're claiming that your house needs some type of repair. That seems a little out of the norm. Maybe they're saying you have foundation problems or sidewalk needs repair, whatever the case may be. But again, and then they say that it's a good deal, right? Like, I have extra materials from this last job I did. I could do this for a small amount of money, And so you give them a little bit of money up front, then they start in on the job and they say, oh, it's a bigger job than what I thought, so now you need to give me more money, and after you give them more money, then they're out of there and the work never gets finished. So the big thing on those, I like to say, is, you know, whoever's wanting to work on your house, go ask your neighbor. Did this person do work on your house? Ask around. I mean, we're a small enough community, she'd be able to, if it's a good, reputable builder or contractor, they should be well known enough to that you should be able to get some references and recommendations from other people.
And
I don't see that one as common around here, but
anyone that's coming into the community, there has to get a license from the building department too.
exactly. So that's another very good point. So verify the story independently. So call and check on their license. Very good. Yeah. So back to spotting scams. So we talked about immediate action, keeping a secret, money needed up front. So there are a couple exceptions to this that I can think of, but not very often are you having to provide money before you get any kind of service. So be very cautious about providing any money up front. And then watch out for those hard to track payment methods. So cash, cryptocurrency, wire transfers, gift cards are the big ones. And then just building your scam defenses. So it's watching out for those things that we just talked about, knowing that the insistence on secrecy is a ploy, be suspicious of sending any money up front, confirming those stories independently. So a lot of times at my office, we will use Google Maps. If you guys, I don't know how much you guys use that, but if somebody gives you an address, you can Google that and see, well, if this is supposed to be a financial firm, for example, why does it look like a warehouse in Google Maps? So those are some things you can use to confirm it independently. And then if you do use social media, be sure and check those privacy settings. And I suggest doing that on a kind of a regular basis. I mean, not super often, but maybe once a year at least go in there, because they're always changing. Facebook especially kind of adds things or changes how they word or label stuff. So just make sure things are locked down the way that you want them to be locked down.
And where do you go in for that?
I could probably show you after. It's a little different on every device. So yeah, I'd be happy to look at that after.
Thank you.
Okay, and so then these are some optional things that you can choose to do if you want to try to block those scammers. We do have a do not call list. It's fairly easy to register for the do not call list if you're not already on there. You can put your cell phone numbers on there now, and you can also put your landline phone numbers. You do have to register online at donotcall.gov, but once you're registered, that registry lasts forever. So you never have to go in and redo that.
So how do they keep getting all these calls when you're already on that list?
Well, so the legitimate telemarketers have to pull lists that do not that have this in place. I think some of the other calls that you get are probably just scammers that have somehow came across your phone number. So that's the unfortunate thing. And the do not call list, you know, I don't know when you added your number, but they update. They don't always have to use the most up-to-date list, is maybe I should say. So it's like a 30-day rolling thing. So if you just put your number on there.
About 10 years.
Okay, yeah. I think our numbers just honestly are out there a little bit, and unfortunately, not much we can do about it. Register with dmachoice.org to limit junk mail. This is if you want to try to get rid of some of the things that you're getting in the mail that you don't want to have to worry about shredding. It's a pretty small, I think it's $5 to $7, and it lasts like 5 years. But alternatively to that, you can just make sure that you're either shredding or somehow marking off your name and address on things that you're throwing in the trash can. So that's just to keep people from dumpster diving and possible identity theft.
Even our addresses need to be.
Well, I don't know that I worry so much about address because that's kind of public record, but the one I really worry about is credit card offers. So if I get a credit card offer, I'm very careful about pulling out. Now they just come with it's the sheet that has like, here's the code to go on the, because all they need is that piece of paper with that URL and a few pieces of identifying information to open an account in your name. So I'm just very careful about credit card offers would be the big one. But yeah, name and address I don't worry about because I could look you up on county records and find that. We talked about using antivirus software or finding a local tech firm to help you with that. Very cautious about clicking on email links. So phishing emails are everywhere. I almost think you probably get more phishing emails than you get legitimate emails in some cases. So just be very cautious about clicking on links. An example, so like Amazon sends a email every time you order something. And maybe you want to check on the status of that, item that you ordered. I just go to Amazon.com. I know that URL. I will just go over and type that into my web browser, or I will look on my app on my phone. I'm not going to click on the link in the email. And then we talked about limiting our personal information on social media. So they will use small, innocuous types of things like, I went to a book club tonight, or my mystery book club tonight. Well, now all of a sudden you've got somebody interested in you that likes mystery, books on mystery. So things you don't think are very, that mean anything that you share, they can piece those things together to build that common bond with you. If you're a scam victim, please do not be embarrassed or afraid, okay? There are lots of people out there that have been victims of scams, and they are not just seniors, okay? Everybody from, teens clear through seniors have been victims of scams, people that are very educated, people that are tech savvy, all of those people have been victims of scams. So please don't be embarrassed or afraid. You need to tell someone you trust. Please come and tell us at the bank so that we can make sure that if we need to do anything to protect your accounts, we will take those actions. And then you can choose about contacting the police or the federal agencies. If you haven't lost any money, I'm not sure that's going to do much, but if you have lost money, you're definitely going to want to write up a police report on it. And then your bank can help. So we already have processes in place to watch your account for any unusual activity. So hopefully we can spot it if something's happening. I mentioned this before. We are going to ask why you are withdrawing large amounts of cash, but that's just for your protection. We're going to see if you want someone you trust to have access to your account so that they can also be watching it over for you. And then for investments, I like to remind people again, deal locally, find yourself a good financial investment firm locally that you can speak to someone person to person and make and choose your investments that way. I think that's it, but I do want to point out a few things that are in the book, but I'd like to take questions first, if anybody has any.
That was great.
Questions? Okay, I'm going to grab a book here, and I just want to point out some other things that are in here that are kind of good. So right behind the PowerPoint, I tucked in this 10 general tips for avoiding a scam, and this is from the Better Business Bureau. I left it loose here because I think it makes a great pin-up for your bulletin board or refrigerator or right by your computer because these are some great things to remember. Then also in the book, I have a scam defenses to-do list, so it just talks about some of the things that I mentioned that you can do to protect yourself. And then back a little further, you'll find scam tip sheets. And so these kind of go into detail on each of the types of scams that I talked about today, plus a couple of others. So if I was to give you homework, I would ask you to read page 26. So that talks about money mules, and that's another type of scam situation that we're seeing. So read that. And then towards the very back, I think it's on like 31, there is some information on email phishing. I especially like this page of page 32. 31 and 32 of some email phishing information. You should really read over that. because knowing how to spot a good URL is kind of the key to watching those links. And what they will do now, they're getting really good at this. They will take one letter of the URL. So let's say in this one it's google.com, and they will change one letter. So they might take this first O in Google and make it a 0. Okay? Well, on first glance, and if I'm in a hurry and it's kind of small in my little web browser, it looks like it's right, but it's actually taking you to a bad website. So just read over those pages because they're really good at helping you spot those fake websites. Any other questions? Yes.
Well, what about the Reader's Digest thing? I haven't done those recently, but, they say you have to, I think it's legitimate because it's gone on for a long time, but they say how is that? You have this opportunity to win, so you send what they send you in.
Oh, is it like a sweepstakes?
Yeah, and then you get another letter, and finally I got onto it and don't reply.
Yeah.
But
And that's the thing. Some of the stuff, some of the emails, they are legitimate. That probably is. But what that unfortunately does too is put you on a list, because you'd have to give your name, your address, maybe your phone number. I don't know everything, but give some information. Well, it puts you on a list that then exposes your information to somebody that's going to hack it or purchase it. And then, then the next thing you know, you're getting another offer somewhere else or another scam. So to me, it's not worth it. But yeah, I know it's hard to decipher between ones that are real and ones that are not.
well, you never.
Yeah.
Spend more money on postage.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of the ways that they were saying to not get scammed is to go and lock all your
Oh, credit?
accounts. How effective do you think that really is?
Well, I will tell you, if you go freeze your credit, it stops a bank from doing anything. So we can't pull. It does lock it down, and it also it creates a barrier for anybody that's trying to. If you're not going out, like if you're kind of done getting credit cards or having to get loans or anything like that, I would do it. It's a pain to turn it back on a little bit. So that's why if you're kind of still in that where you're wanting to do that, but yeah, they work, because we'll get people that come in and apply for loans, and they will tell us that it's frozen, and so we'll have to tell them to go unfreeze it before they do that. And in the book, it also tells you how to check out your free credit report, and so if you're looking at that, you can balance it out a little bit.
Well, that's like at our bank, and from about all of our credit cards, we get a free credit report of those. Those are pretty much the same thing, aren't they?
Yes, but they don't all. You'd have to look into it a little more. What you won't see with those, so it gives you your score and stuff. So if your score started moving down, for example, you'd be suspicious. But what they don't always give you is all the activity. So like if somebody had just inquired on your credit, for example, you may not see that in that. Like I know ours does, but I'm not sure every model does that. So I'll give you an example. I have that credit monitoring through my bank, and I got it.
Who do you go to?
Well, it's through Golden Belt Bank. We have a free one. We have a free one that our customers get to use. And so I was signed up for it, and I got an email that there had been an inquiry on my account, that there had been a pull. And I was like, well, I didn't apply for any loans. I didn't apply for any credit cards. Well, come to find out, sure enough, somebody had tried to apply for a credit card in my name. Now, luckily, this was a big bank. Their fraud department caught it. They knew the addresses didn't match up. They were on the East Coast trying to apply for one in my name, and they knew my last address was Kansas. So it got stopped, but I wouldn't have known about it had I not seen that alert at all. Which, if that fraud department hadn't stopped it, somebody out there could have a credit card in my name. The identity theft piece is, that can be tough. Yeah.
So like the activation codes I keep on getting on my tablet, are those both scams?
I would say they are for sure scams unless you're asking for a code when you're trying to log into something.
Because I got on my tablet today and there was automatically two, activation codes that they told me to click on.
Is it through like a messaging service?
Mhm.
And then there's a link to click, ignore, delete them. They're not, so when you have, multi-factor, so two-factor authentication through like an online banking app, sometimes you will get emailed or texted a code, but there will be no link to click on. It will just be the code, and then you go enter that code somewhere else. So no, I would definitely ignore those.
Thank you.
Yes, you're very welcome. I hope everybody, like I said, go tell 10 of your friends so we can stop the scammers. Thank you, everybody.